uh, meeting of the Forsyth County Amateur Radio Club. My name's Sam Poindexter, NI4TG. We have a lot of ground to cover tonight, so we're going to go ahead and to get started, I'm going to ask Kent to give us a treasurer's report.
Okay, our current bank balance is $5,073.61 with no major expenses coming up. We've got a couple that we've used for marketing things that still have to be paid that Stacy's getting me a list of those things, but those shouldn't be measured. I will just mention that as far as the county goes, that we're on go for field day at Hobby Park. They have not cashed our check yet, but I have spoken with the guy, and we're all set up for Friday and Saturday that day. I'm sorry, Saturday and Sunday. But that's it as far as the finance goes.
Thank you, Kent. Appreciate that. Okay, next, Dale, if you'll give us a repeater and testing report.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Good evening, everybody. Just got back. The good news on the testing, thanks to a number of VEs, including Sam and Kent that were just on, we really appreciate your efforts. We're pleased to be able to announce and publicize the May 8th, 2021 exam session from 1 to 3:30 at the Robin Hood Baptist Church. And thanks to Steve, WA3RTC, and David, KC4X, for making those arrangements. We should be in good shape. The number of VEs we have. I guess the main thing to try to help encourage folks as they sign up is there will be no walk-ins. They'll be allowed because of the preparation, a lot of it in observance of COVID standards, and that there'll be new waivers both for the club and W4VEC, which we'll need from the examinees as well as the VECs. And thanks to those that have already sent those in. So we're looking forward to a good session. And thanks to Terry for getting that out on the website. I saw a recent note. I didn't get a chance to review it. And also Kent had some excellent ideas of trying to emphasize the May 8th date up at the top of the website instead of in the middle where I had put it. So we'll look for any other changes that we need to make to update that website. Before we get to the repeaters, any questions on the testing? Okay, haven't heard none. Moving on to,
Gail,
go ahead. Yes.
1 second. We had an inquiry about testing from a potential member. I think you responded that we hadn't finalized the date yet.
He had sent me an email. I told him that we're still looking ahead of having it on the 8th. That was probably on Wednesday.
Okay, great.
And watch the website. So I'll reach out to him and send him a personal invitation, excuse me, and also get his paperwork in so that when folks do that, we'll issue them a reservation to come. So we won't have everybody show up at the site and then have to do all the administrative work. But thanks for bringing that up.
That'll be great. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions on testing? Okay. Moving on to the repeaters. Again, thanks to David, KC4X, and Mike, W4MAV. We've had several sessions up there to do some general maintenance, clean things up. There's still quite a bit to be done from the ice storm. There's some trees hanging over, which David may talk about later on. And just from a safety point of view, we need to clear those. We couldn't earlier because they were coated with ice, as well as the ones going over the power line, which I think we're okay now. But there's also a local access issue where the trees broke the fence. So we're getting that information to the owner to see what he'd like to do to make sure that things will remain safe up there and secure. As far as what we're doing on the repeater, some general maintenance, tuning some stuff, some improvements, and we have some future items on the for the site to take care of. We have made some major progress on the internet. It's not up at 100% yet, but I'll be reaching back out to our internet provider to have them answer some questions as far as some blocking of ports that should be open that presently aren't. So we have a workaround for that now, but I'd like to get that solved. Other than that, just kind of stay tuned. There's interference up there. We're working to get rid of that, and talked to Don Edwards today, and he's kind enough to be able to help us out here in the near future, looking at ways with equipment so we can narrow that down and literally notch some of that interference to ground, kind of shorten it to ground. So I won't go any further on that. Any questions on repeaters at this point? Okay, I'll turn it back to Sam. Thank you, Sam. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Dale. Appreciate it. Okay, next up, Harlan, you want to give us an Oxcom update?
There we go. I'm unmuted. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Next month, folks, we're going to have a nice presentation on the future of emergency communications in relation to amateur radio in the state of North Carolina. There have been some changes to the website. There are some major changes going on in the state, which I will brief folks on next month. Suffice it to say that a lot is happening. The one thing that I will tell everybody that is a very big jump for amateur radio in emergency service communications in the state of North Carolina is about a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago now, we had a meeting online with the statewide interoperability coordinator, long title for what we call the SWIC. He is the man at emergency management at the state level that oversees all of the emergency communications needs in the state. And he is responsible for making sure everybody can talk to each other and so forth and so on. If you looked at EFS2 real quick, that is on communications. Amateur radio traditionally has been listed as a supplemental secondary communications resource should everything fail. In the state of North Carolina, as of the beginning of the year, it is not that way. Amateur radio is now considered a primary communications asset and will be deployed along with all first communications response units. So that is a big change that puts us having us to step up quite a bit for that. So I encourage everybody to be here next month when we do the meeting. With luck, we'll be in person. If not, we'll be doing it virtually, but we'll try to make it a very pleasant experience for all. That's pretty much it from the Oxcom side right now. Thanks, Sam.
Okay, thank you, Harlan. Thank you very much. And look forward to next month's meeting.
One other
Harlan
thing I
presented-
just saw on my list that I meant
Okay.
to mention. Sorry about that. Tour to Tanglewood. And the reason I just saw it because we've just been in the planning stages. Put on a calendar 25 to 26 September. It's I think the last weekend of September, if I remember correctly. Right now, the plan is for a in-person tour to Tanglewood back to the way we used to be, unless the state shuts things down. So please put that on your calendar. We are in the planning stages of that right now with MS, and they have reached out to us. So we're looking forward to being able to do that event. That's it, Sam. I apologize. I just missed that bullet point.
Oh, that's okay, Harlan. Thank you. I just want to take a second. I didn't notice before, we've got a couple of new folks with us. I'd like to welcome Nicole and John. After the meeting, we hang around and have an informal session. If you guys want to hang around, maybe we can get to know you. I had just a couple of announcements tonight. One is that the Finance Committee has done an inventory of all club equipment. This was quite an undertaking. We've got about 15 man hours in this inventory. We're doing this for several reasons. One is for insurance purposes. One is to see what we've got, what we may need to get rid of. At any rate, if anyone has anything at home that belongs to the club, we would appreciate knowing about it so we can list it in our inventory. And of course, bring it back to the Red Cross building whenever we meet in person again. So again, if anybody's got anything belonging to the club You can let me know, or Stacy, um, or Ken Kaiser, or Kent, and we will add that to the inventory. Another thing tonight that I wanted to announce is that the Board of Directors has authorized a membership survey. So in your email inbox tomorrow, you will be receiving a survey from the club, and it will be easily identifiable. You might want to just check your spam folder if you don't get it tomorrow, but it's bright yellow when you open it up. This survey is going to take 2 minutes. It's just very simple, and it does not take a lot of time. And the survey is totally anonymous. When you send this thing back, we don't have a clue who sent it in. We would like to kind of find out how we're doing, where you would like to see the club headed, what your ideas might be for various activities, and to see where we can improve. We want to make the club great, and we want to include everybody. So again, tomorrow, look for an email in your inbox. And Harlan says he's got the Oxcom Go kit. Thank you, Harlan. Anyway, look tomorrow in your inbox, and please take 2 minutes, return this anonymous survey, and there's a place for comments. You can write a book, you can write a sentence. Let us know how you feel. This is your opportunity. Don't let it go by. Okay, the next thing we'd like to do tonight, Ken Kaiser is going to give a small presentation on the Amazon Smile program. So Ken, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Sam. Let me share my screen. You guys let me know if you see that. Somebody?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to talk maybe for about 10 minutes about Amazon Smile. And I called it a win-win-win project. It's a win for us as a club because it benefits us financially. It's a win for each of us individually because we get to feel a little bit better about all the money we spend on things that we don't really need on Amazon. And of course, Amazon likes it because we get to spend money on things that we don't really need. So the Smile program is, Amazon calls it a charity program or a contribution program. And what it is that they will take 1/2 of 1% of everything you spend on what they call qualified purchases, which are most things, and donate it to the organization of your choice. Obviously, you have to be pre-registered as an organization. We have been for some time, and we are qualified to receive this. Now, somebody brought this up. I think Kent or a few people have mentioned it over the last couple of years, and I have to admit that I was late in signing up for it, just because I was lazy. So what I'm going to ask each of you to do who's not signed up for the program is download this presentation. Terry was kind enough to get it right on the top of the front page of the homepage as a link. And so if you have any questions about things that, or you may forget a few steps, you can have it in front of you. While I was exchanging emails with Terry to get this posted, he wrote me back an email that he said he just checked his stats, which you can do on Amazon Smile, and his purchases have contributed $33 to the club. And he said, imagine if everybody did it. So if we had 100 members and everybody contributed $33, obviously you can do the math. Some will do more, some will do less. But this presentation is essentially how to do it. So I've kind of talked about what it is. There are essentially two ways that you can purchase things from Amazon. One is via a web browser on your computer, desktop or laptop, or even a phone if you wanted to, or via an app. There's an app that you can download for an iPhone or an Android phone or a tablet. We're going to first talk about how you do this in a web browser, and then we'll go to the app. Now, believe me, it takes less time to do this start to finish than I'm going to spend talking about it. So what you do on a web browser is instead of putting in www.amazon.com or just amazon.com, you put in smile.amazon.com. And you can bookmark that, as we'll see later. And then every time you go to Amazon, you'll automatically be contributing to Forsyth Amateur Radio Club. And one of the reasons I didn't do it is I had bookmarks and I didn't want to have to go to a special website each time. And that was just a lack of my understanding. So when you put in smile.amazon.com, if you're not already signed up, you'll get a page like this, which says, oh, it's going to be great when you sign up. Notice it says, hello, Patrice. So that means this person, I guess he's Patrice, he doesn't look like Patrice, but was already signed in. So you need to be signed in to your Amazon account, then go to Smile. You just click the Get Started button, and you'll get a page that says, okay, who do you want to donate money to? And you can just put as much in here as you think we need to qualify. So Forsyth Amateur. You'll either get this page or one that looks like this. It's the same thing. Pick your charitable organization. I put in Forsyth Amateur. That was all I wanted to do because I can't necessarily spell radio. And it came up with us on the next page right on the top. You can see other Forsyths, other amateur radios, but it figured Forsyth Amateur was pretty close to Forsyth Amateur Radio Club was pretty close to what I wanted. You click select, and that's it. You're already signed up. Now it'll take you to, this is the next page in the sequence. It'll ask you to create a bookmark. And a bookmark, as we'll see, is just a quick way of getting to the site. And automatically we'll have the Smile in the address. So when you click that, it'll automatically add this Amazon Smile. And it'll actually, later on, after a few minutes, there'll be a nice little smile icon here, to your bookmarks bar. And this is in Chrome, but it'll work in any browser. So now, anytime you want to go to Amazon, you just click on the Amazon Smile bookmark, and you get right into Amazon. So this is just what Amazon would look like, whether I was on Smile or not. I think it does say over here that's cut off a little bit, that your Smile contributions benefit Forsyth Amateur Radio Club or something like that. My slides are a little narrow because for those who've seen some of my other presentations, they usually include live demos, and Mr. Murphy has a way of getting in the way of live demos. So I decided just to use slides for this one. So I had to do a little cutting and pasting. That's it. Any questions so far on this browser-based approach? Okay. So I mentioned, well, some people don't use a browser. And fortunately for us, Amazon recently brought Smile to their app. And as I say, you can download the app. It looks pretty much the same whether you're on an iPhone, an iPad, an Android phone, or an Android tablet. And of course, you should also be signed in to your Amazon account before you start this. So the way you do it is you open the account and you go to this Who knows what this is called? It's a
No, but
hamburger. It's called a hamburger. That's the new jargon for menus on a phone app. It's supposed to look like a
It's called a menu waffle.
a menu waffle. There's a good one too. So you click on that menu waffle, and you'll get okay. It knows who I am. You scroll down to see all programs. Okay, Smile is a program. Click on that, and it pops up all the programs, and Amazon Smile is there. Click on that, and it knows because I'm signed in, and I had already previously set my Smile beneficiary to Forsyth Amateur Radio Club. It knows that that's my charity. However, if you notice, it's not turned on because I hadn't gone to the phone app and turned it on since that's new. So what do? You click on turn on Amazon Smile. It's really hard. And it says, okay, just all you have to do is enable notifications. And it's going to actually do that for you on the next screen. So I'm going to turn on Amazon Smile again. It says, okay, notifications are enabled. Welcome. Whoops. You've blah, blah, blah. You have generated over $266 million. Not me personally, I have to admit. And that's it. You're done. You'll get a nice little smile logo on your phone. I don't know if they call that a desktop or a dashboard or a home screen. That's what it's called. And every time you click it, you'll automatically be in Amazon and donating to Forsyth Amateur Radio Club with every purchase. So, like I said, I didn't do it for a long time because I thought it was going to be a hassle. I use Amazon almost every day. Probably many people in the club do. Probably almost everybody in the world does. And this is a great way to generate income for the club that we wouldn't have gotten any other way. It doesn't cost us a penny, is not inconvenient in the slightest. So I really urge everybody to take advantage of this, donate to the club. Kent, you might let us know, I forgot the number, what the total to date is that we've got. I guess it goes by quarter.
We usually get about $30 to $50 a quarter.
Okay, great. Well, some of that's coming from, a lot of that's coming from Terry, right, Terry? But let's all contribute. We could definitely raise several $100s a year with no effort and no out-of-pocket expense.
And we can ask our neighbors.
That's right. If they don't have a better charity, let's get them in on it. Okay, any questions? All right, well, thanks for your attention. Sam, back to you.
thank you, Ken. That was great. And again, I encourage everyone to do that. I do it. It's just automatic after you set it up. Okay, we can't wait any longer. We're excited. Steve Patterson is presenting tonight on a remote control project for his 2-meter rig, I believe. Steve, the floor is yours.
All right. And first of all, I'm not going to apologize for the poor screen quality, but hopefully by the time this is over, you will see what's going on. Let me start a screen sharing so you won't have to watch that. Come on, share. And do you see that?
Yes.
You don't, I don't see it. Do you see? Okay. Tonight, I'd like to talk about fact that my internet connection is unstable. The auxiliary radio control, or it should better be known as my auxiliary control of a remote radio station. And what I'm going to do is tell you, first of all, I'll talk just a moment about a remote radio station and why you might want to have one. When I moved into this area, I ended up in an HOA, which doesn't like a lot of outside antennas, or you could be in an RF hole, but basically you can't get the signal out from your location, and you can actually remotely locate your transceiver, all your equipment over to your daughter's house, if that works out. Anyway, of course, I have to pay for internet. The other one is you can't get to your rig conveniently, I should say. Mike has told us a few times that it's too hot or too cold in his remote shack, and kind of eliminates him getting out there in the very hot and very cold days. And sometimes I'm in the car waiting for my wife to do shopping and away from the radio when I want to use it. And sometimes I'm downstairs and the radio's upstairs and I'm too lazy to walk up the steps. So I got a remote control radio set up based on a Raspberry Pi. That is not what I'm going to talk about tonight. But what happened was, once I got that, I got a fear of remote operations. And my fear is that after working in maintenance long enough, systems fail, especially when you can't reach them to pull the plug. And I could just see that this, what I've got remotely controlled is my ICOM 746, which is an HF and 2 meters of SAM. So I've only used it on 2 meters, but
Okay.
I can just see my transmitter getting stuck on transmit in the middle of the Vagabonds or something like that. And I am located miles away and can't pull the plug. Got to call somebody, have them break in the house, pull the plug, you know, that sort of stuff. The transmitter can fail. I've been in one situation where a friend of mine's transmitter did fail. It happened to be in his car, and it was on the 4.7 repeater at the time, but that's been many years ago. Or the control computer can fail. I mean, this thing is built, the Raspberry Pi has a built-in control that after so many minutes, it will shut you down because of the legal requirements, but it can fail. And when I started, those are the two failures that I'm really concerned about. So I ended up deciding I'd get an auxiliary controller, but then again, it can fail. So I tried to consider all these failure modes. And while I was at it, sometimes you forget to take the antenna and disconnect it when you leave, and a storm comes up. So I kind of added that into that. So what we did for tonight is how I tried to reduce the fear of remote operations. And so I set up, I wanted to set up a self-contained, didn't require any external access to actually shut the radio down if it were to be on for a certain length of time, which is, of course, programmable when you use little controllers. Then I'll let the project scope expand. You know, you always do that. So what I've come up with and what I'd like to talk about tonight is remote control via the internet of the station power, the antennas, and the computer controller, the Raspberry Pi. And as I say, via the internet, it independently will work, but I needed to be able to force it in certain conditions, like turning the radio on and off when I wanted. So what I plan to cover, and I'm only going to do this in general. I have, at the end, I'll give you a link to about a 30-page document on this project, including all the software and flow charts and all that. But what I'd like to talk about tonight are the hardware requirements, then actually the implementation of the hardware controls, and then the basically the software logic that I went through. And I want to do a little demo with KC4X, and I'll let him be in control, or at least let him think he is. And then I'll come back, do a very brief on the software network, which is fairly involved on this thing. Not real complex, but it's something that is for a different meeting. So I'll just mention it in passing. And here are the hardware requirements I came up. I needed it to be simple to program and to troubleshoot. Now, I've had experience with the Arduino, and there's a new, at the time, expressive ESP32, which uses the Arduino IDE, or Integrated Development Environment. So I'm thinking that maybe troubleshooting and the learning curve might be doable on this, and it was. It worked real nice with that experience in the Arduino. Then I decided, since I let the scope creep, that that I wanted to record access it remotely. I can turn my radio on and off and turn the antennas, access them and turn them off, all from my phone via the internet. In fact, that's what we're going to demonstrate tonight, is remote access of the power. Again, we're not turning the radio to transmit, not changing the frequency. My rig pi does that. Only thing I'm doing is, independent of that rig pi, being put some safety belts and suspenders. Also needed to be inexpensive, because we are hams. Hams means it needs to be inexpensive. At the time, I built it on and I put it in caps because that's the way it's, you need to look it up. Do It ESP32 Dev V1 board. And it was available for less than $6 in China. And it was still under $10 when I looked it up last on Amazon. So don't forget, use the Amazon Smile and list the FARC as your charity. And Ken, as of this past month, the Amazon says they have sent to the Forsyth Club $851.87. So that's, that's from when they started the project, or whoever got on first. And so I've been using it.
That's great.
For quite a while,
Steve.
and it's very worthwhile for the little effort. And I needed this thing to be reliable. Now you make some guesses in that case. I found some reliability problems during the project and worked on overcoming them. Wi-Fi, internet, but it's been running over 8 months, and I did this thing a couple of months ago. It's been about 10 months to a year, and have observed no failures. So knock on wood. It's not bulletproof, but it's only for my own application. It's not something that's out there for everybody to use like some of the other systems are. Now, the hardware control, I ended up basing it on a 4-channel relay module. And the reason I did a 4-channel relay module is I needed 3 relays, and they came in 1s, 2s, and 4s. And it was just as easy to use a 4. So I got a spare on there when you see but the relay number 4 is my radio power. And the ICOM 746 is powered off a 12-volt power supply. And I have a 30-amp auto relay. I got that thing done at, I think I got it at O'Reilly's. It's a 12-volt coil. And I use a little one of those, that number 4 relay, that little interface relay, to pick up the big relay and turn the 12-volt power on, and it'll handle 30 amps to the radio. I also use the 12-volt power supply unswitched to power up the entire auxiliary control. The antenna connection is relay 3, and the ICOM 746 has 2 relay connections. It actually has 3, but with the antenna tuner that's remote, only one HF and one 2-meter antenna connections are what I use. And I built a box thanks to comments from Gene and help from Harold. I was able to make use of the relays like they've been using to actually turn the relay, the antennas, either connected to the radio or the radio connected to the antenna connected to the box ground and the radio connected to a 50 ohm dummy load. I'll make a comment about that 50 ohm dummy load shortly, but I'll make it now. I got it from eBay. You get 5 of them for $5. They say there's 50 ohm, 100 watt resistors. You can hold it in your hand, but don't put power to it when you hold it in your hand. I've melted them with 20 watts of DC or 20 watts of DC. So I've heat sinked them, and in the control, I permit the radio to transmit into the dummy load for no more than a programmed amount. And I think it's in the less than 5-second range. Also, the RigPi is powered through one of these relays. And what happens is you don't want to turn the power to a Raspberry Pi off while it's running. It works most of the time, but every once in a while it'll corrupt your SD card. So I have another program, which is the RigPi program, where I can go in, and if it fails and I can't get into it, last resort, I can turn the power off. But normally, and comment to David, right now the RigPi is powered off as far as the program. The DC power is still applied, but that also gives me the ability to remotely reset the Raspberry Pi.
This says RigPi power.
Now the hardware. Say that again?
Said the screen says RigPi power is on.
The power is on. I've turned the program off. So you're not going to damage it when I tell you to do what you're going to do. The next picture is a picture of the unit. It's sitting on top of the radio. The Do-It ESP32 Dev 1 board is shown here with a little red light on it. And it programs very much like an Arduino, with the exception it has Wi-Fi built in. And it has some good Wi-Fi programs, and it is run as a web server. So a little bit later, we're going to go into this device and bring up a web page from it. Off to the left are the relays, the radio power, antenna power or antenna connection, and the Pi power and its spare. And up in the upper right, I have found that on this ICOM 746, anytime it's transmitted, whether I tell it to go from a cat signal or push to talk or whatever, the push to talk signal goes low. I didn't want to load it down, so I put a little interface into it, and that goes in for my detection that it is transmitting. That's one that's coming in. You can see the arrow into one of these 3 inputs. The other 2 are there if I decide that I need an independent RF detector. I've already got it built in where I just hook it into those connections. Now the main function for the logic of the software was making sure if that push to talk line is detected for more than, I programmed it at 2.9 minutes. The RigPi shouldn't let it go that long. The radio shouldn't let it go that long, but if it does, it will shut down in 2.9 minutes. And actually shut down means take the 12-volt power away. The software for the access the control is by a web browser. No special program on my phone. I found out tonight it works much better with a Chrome browser than it does a Firefox, but I only use Chrome, so that's what I tested it on. If the internet fails, it continues to work. The timer still works. And if I turn the rig power off and so many 15 minutes later, if I haven't turned the antennas off, they go off, all done in software. Minimum damage is again, what I mentioned about if I transmit with the antenna switched off, you know, sometimes I forget and it will shut off automatically after a few seconds. Other software items in there, loss of the Wi-Fi, it tries to reconnect. I mean, it still works, but it'll try to reconnect. I think every 20 seconds, I forget the time. It's programmed in there, but it's been a while since I wrote the program. And it periodically will try to reconnect. And there is a rollover timer that I use in there, and you can do some fancy stuff so your rollover timer doesn't mess you up, but I just reset the thing every 49.7 days because the time's longer than almost 50 days before it rolls over. But that's the basic logic that's involved. Now just some general views. The left-hand side, the back two items are the antenna switches. You see the heat sinks and the little resistors are underneath the aluminum frame and all that. If you see up in there's a little power supply. It's a 12 volt to 5 volt power supply. I think it does 4 amps or 8 amps. Good old Chinese version. But that's what runs both the RigPi, which you can see sitting under the radio, and the auxiliary controller. Now the RigPi, of course, is run through this one relay. And right now, the reason my video is so fuzzy is I have the camera pointed right at the radio screen. And what you're seeing is just a reflection that just happens to be in the radio screen with the lighting I've got. Next view is the auxiliary control inside. Again, it's just a couple of relays, the schematics there. All these pictures are available on the document that I've got listed at the end. You see the size of that relay, of the resistor, $5 for 5 pieces, 100 watt, 50 ohm dummy load RF resistors from eBay. Yeah, I believe it. That's why I bolted them down, put heat grease on them, heat sinks on them, and limit the time to only a few seconds because I believe their documentation. The picture in this area is the picture is of the relay, which I have bolted on the back of the power supply. One red lead comes off to run the circuits. The other one comes off, goes through the relay, and heads over to the radio. And the schematic, the ESP32 running the radio board, it's fused. I got a little insert there for the push to talk. And I even put a little light on there that flashes on and off and on and off, just so I can see that it's actually running. It will go solid on when I happen to be in transmit mode detected. So that's another thing to see. As I say, we're going to be looking at some web pages, and these are the web pages. So at this time, I'm going to unshare my screen and ask KC4S, Dave, if you share your screen. You were sharing, I want to stop sharing. And if you'll picture, Dave, if you can share your Chrome browser.
There we are. I'm sharing.
Okay, did you go to the location that I gave you?
Are you not seeing the screen?
All I see is a blank screen,
It's black.
dark. Still nothing.
David, unshare and then reselect share. And if you're going to use audio, be sure and check the lower left square for share audio.
Yeah, we don't need David to talk. We just need him to.
The issue I'm having is
Did
Steve,
you share it or?
I'm just wondering if he's got internet problems.
the internet here is working. I'm seeing everybody, but I can't get back to the unshare screen for whatever reason.
I'll take care of it, David. There you go.
There you go.
Okay. Now, can you maybe enlarge it a little bit or zoom into that? Chrome on the upper right, you can zoom. There you go. All right. Not too big, a little smaller. All right. This is a web page, and David's already come in and accessed through the username and the password. And right now it's showing that the antenna is off, rig pipe power is on, the radio power is off. How about turning the antenna on? Make the antenna active. Just go up and click the little red. All right, I just heard it. Now click the radio power on. All right, now on my picture, if you're looking at the different pictures of everybody, you'll see I have my camera pointed at the radio. And that's why you were seeing it fuzzy, as it was just a reflection. It has now turned the power on to the radio. And I think all we need to do time-wise is let's turn the antenna off. Again, what you're seeing there is a web page in which I built, and it is running on the web server, which is the ESP32. And it is going via Wi-Fi into my internet. And Dave is in Clemens, I'm in Louisville, but I've also done the same. I tried to turn it on and off when I was in Louisiana, but my daughter came over and borrowed my computer and shut my power supply off. So I had a talk with her. Anyway, turn the radio power off. Now, I didn't want to just hit the button and go off. You see the radio power is still on. I said, verify it. I can either cancel or I can go ahead and shut it down. Go ahead and shut it down. And you see the radio went off. Now the rig pi, and you may have to change the resolution on your screen a little bit, Dave. I have already turned the program off on the rig pi. So go ahead and turn the power off of a just click the on button of it. Is it working? Okay. Now you bring that up. What it is there is I put a note to remind the operator, and remember, I'm the only one supposed to be operating it. Hey, dummy, you need to turn your rig PI off, wait 30 seconds before you power down. So just cancel that one. All right, that's the demonstration. Thank you, Dave. You can unshare your screen, I hope. And I'm going to share mine. Got 2 more slides to go and we will get you back to regular scheduled program. Okay, you see the demo time slide?
Yep.
You see my demo slide?
Yes.
Okay. This is just pictures of what you saw in real time that, that basically allows me to remotely turn the radio on and off. And let me get, this is a busy slide. Basically, for those that are in networks, I am not. I used them just enough to get by on some control stuff. But the key network tasks, most of them took place on my local router. I needed to set up a dynamic domain name service. But the ESP32, I gave a fixed IP address using its MAC address. My router did that. The auxiliary control network port is programmably set at 8888. However, when you came in, when Dave came in, he didn't use 8888. That wouldn't have worked. He used another number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever. And my router is set, oh, you mean 8888, and it will do a port translation or a port forwarding to the proper item. Spectrum or whoever you have for your internet, they can change your IP address anytime they want. They take care of all of that, but it messes you up if you're trying to access it. So I got a free service from www.noip.com. I set up a service and I went in and made up a web IP address or web address of demo.ddns.net. So what Dave did, and I've changed it since, and it was actually, he went to http:// whatever, demo 1023.ddns.net:12345, and it being noip.com says, oh, you really want to go to whatever my router is, and I program my router to keep it informed. It automatically tells what the local WAN internet IP is to this noip.com, and it will then, anytime I go any place in the world, except China, I think, find its way back. I say China because they do weird things. And this is just kind of a little schematic. Dave over there on the left with his laptop went out to the internet and typed in the address I gave him. It went out to noip.com. It says, oh, you mean this? It then sent it down to my router and it says, oh, you mean this port, and sends it down to my, in this case, the auxiliary control. Again, all of this stuff is further addressed in the document that is available, and the details can be found, including the code for the ESP32. A lot of it was based on the random nerd tutorial, their permission to use it, and for publication. It was permission to use it was no problem. But if you go to almondtree.com, which is what we're using for the project group, which meets third Thursdays at 7:30 on Zoom. There's a box in the upper left labeled the project list. And in there, there's a link called General Links. You click on that, you get a page that comes up. And it has a bunch of run buttons, well, several. And one of them is labeled with the task of ESP32 aux control of remote station. Click that and you'll get a copy of the manual. And I appreciate the time. I'm going to stop my sharing and turn it back. Sam, let me turn it back to you so you can field questions. I'll be here Thursday if any other questions are needed. It may need a little time to peruse the document and ask questions. So, Sam, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. That was technical, but very interesting. Anybody got any questions for Steve?
I have a comment actually that first off, Steve, great project, loved it. Makes me want to build one. But I was involved with a project for the Army where we had a similar issue of we wanted to make sure that a Linux operating system shut down when power got removed and it shut down safely. And the approach we took for that was actually put a large capacitor on there and then had the Pi sitting there watching the voltage coming into the capacitors feeding the Pi, little voltage regulator on there. And so it stays with good voltage even after you cut the power. And and the size capacitor we used was enough to give us about 10 seconds. But as soon as we notice for 2 seconds that power is gone, that input power has gone low, we say, oh, okay, it's time to start shutting everything down. And so we have a little program in there that monitors it. And when it sees that, it shuts down all the other programs. So everything shuts down safely. May not be worth it for this project, but just an idea anyway. I thought I'd pass along.
I've seen a few of those on the on YouTube. There's several that do it. I've got some what are they? 5 farad capacitors. Got a few of those. They ought to handle it for a while. They're only 2.5 volts, so I figure by the time I'm done, I've only got about 2.5 farads. But yeah, the problem I had with that is I did this project before I saw those, and I am not the one that wrote the program on the Pi. I got 3 other Pis that are on my desk, and I'm planning on getting involved with them. I came up from the Arduino end, and yeah, that is a future. You know, project scope creep. Sometimes you got to take a point in the sand and build it as the project scope continues to creep and then modify it. So that's on the list to do. Appreciate it.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, great presentation, Steve. Does anyone have anything else to bring up tonight? It's a quiet group. Again, look tomorrow in your inbox for the membership survey, and please take the 2 minutes to fill it out and send it back, perfectly anonymous. Also, the business meeting is a week from tonight on Zoom. And again, after the meeting tonight, if you want to hang around for an informal discussion about whatever, feel free to do so. If there's nothing else, do I hear a motion?
We're all muted.
Go ahead, Harold.
Was that a motion, David?
That was a motion to.
That's a motion.
Okay, and I think I heard a second. Okay.
Second.
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I'm going to shut down the recording, but thank you, everyone. And we had a number of visitors tonight and glad to see them all.